All right, so now we're going to talk about a car that we completed building about 7 years ago, started maybe 10 years ago. Craig's with me here, and we're just going to explain what we did, why we did it, and how we did it.
Yeah, it's basically influenced by the 60s show rods, like the bubble cars and that sort of thing. Ultimately, I really wanted to put a bubble on it, but we also wanted it to be legally registered, so the bubble was a no-go. So we ended up with what our version of what a 60s show car would be.
So what we started with, it's a bit hard to tell from these photos, but as you'll see in a photo coming up, essentially we had an original Dodge Cowl, 1927.
59 Chrysler Royal rear quarter panels.
Yep, we started with the original Dodge chassis, but then we end up fabricating one to the same specs with just a bigger kick up in the rear. And we used a Chevy 235 6-cylinder that we had kicking around.
You can see here how we've got the Chrysler Royal quarters mated up to the original cowl. We could have got it to flow a little bit better if we could fabricate a cowl, but the problem is, again, was licensing. We needed to have an original car cowl to register it.
And a couple of other things we also did from that original photo to these photos you can see now where it's getting a bit more complete. We ended up extending the body a bit longer so that you could actually sit in it and it was more comfortable. A couple of the other things we did is obviously, like we'll sort of show some detail photos here. You can see we used Cadillac taillights. The rear deck lid was completely hand-formed by Craig. The radiator we hid using, it was a Pontiac grill, and then we extended the sides of it back to hide the radiator a little bit.
Also the Nerf bars, front and rear Nerf bars were fabricated. We put a triple carb, I think that was an Offenhauser manifold and rocker cover.
Wayne rocker cover. But
Wayne
Offie.
rocker cover, yeah, an Offie manifold.
This shot underneath here, you can just it's a bit hard to make out, but that is the rear 4-bar and exhaust and that sort of thing. And there's a better shot of the engine, so you can see the triple carbies, of which actually only the centre one was running, and they're just Holden carbies.
Yeah, we modified them to fit the manifold.
Yeah, and the rear shot, it sort of gives you a bit of an overview how we ended up. With the side stripe, which is actually in aluminium, and there's a bit of a side profile. The wheels are actually something that I had already kicking around as well. A lot of the stuff on the car, originally the plan was just to use up parts we had left over, and rather than throwing them out, we'd use them.
Originally, it wasn't going to be built to this quality. It was sort of going to be we'll just use up all the parts we've got. But then when we started and sort of realised how good it looked, we got a bit carried away. Yeah, there you can see the gauges. We didn't have a dashboard, so we've just suspended the gauges in buckets underneath the dash.
Yeah, so we originally it was just going to be not rat rod, but it would have been just a cheaply built car. And then as it got further along, we thought, this is starting to look really good. We'd better paint it nicely and add a bit more chrome. And it did drive really good. It was still a good driving car, and it went quite well. It only weighed 980 kilos, so with the 6-cylinder, it actually went really well. Drove them in.
Had a full opening boot lid, and that accessed the fuel tank.
So the rear, the diff is actually just a Holden 1-tonner. We had to find a diff wide enough to clear the body and allow for room for the cycle fenders. Because of the laws in WA, that meant we had to find a wider front axle, and we ended up using an undropped original 32 axle with split bones. It also got used in a bunch of different things. It was featured in quite a few magazines, and these shots here were at a
convention centre. That was really weird that night, because I actually drove it inside the convention centre, put it in an elevator, and had it lifted up to the next floor, and then drove it out the elevator. It was quite surreal.
Yeah, and you can see here, so it was featured in Cruising magazine,
Street Machine, Hot Rod, I think.
Yep. It was
Forged
magazine. It's been featured on a few websites as well, like I think Which Car shared it a couple of times, the Street Machine feature, and those photos by Jordan Least. And these photos here where Dale came over, and they were shot in a quarry, even though it looks like outer space. It was actually just a quarry, and Dale added the stars
The
in
stars, yeah. Well, he's a star, so there you go.
with magic. He
yeah.
used magic.
yeah.
So that was it. I guess if anyone's got any more questions about the car, they could ask in the comments.
Yep.
Or send us a message or ring us at the shop. I mean, we enjoy building it. It's now resides in Melbourne. Haven't seen it for a little while, but keep an eye open for it.
I'm very tempted to build another one. If anyone wants to build another one,
Yeah.
I'd like to build another one.
Yeah, and here's some of the cars that obviously drop in during the week. The Bear Steel car there, we'll feature that later on as we built that one as well.
Yep.
And we can go into a bit of detail on that.